Liz, great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute after the show today. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to be able to share all of our messages, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you have a lot of them. I love your backstory. So let's hop in and get into all of these things that you do. And to begin with, I want 6 years ago, as we looked at the calendar, March was the beginning of all of the COVID things. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach life and work today?
Okay, so in 2018, leading up to COVID, right? I had this dream that I was standing in front of thousands of people because my husband and I put on this natural health conference.
Yeah.
And and it was like I tell my husband about it and somehow I talked him into it. And it was one of the hardest things we have ever done in our life because we had never put on a conference. And here I was just working off this, we all get these dreams and visions and things, of what we want to do in our life. And it was the day of the conference, so it was in 2019. We had told everyone, we told our sponsors, our speakers, our vendors, that we are going to have 1,500 people come to that conference. And we worked our tail end off to be able to do it, learning a lot of new skills to be able to do this. And from sun up to sundown, we worked. And we kept on telling everyone, we're going to have 1,500 people there. And we ordered 1,500 swag bag stuff and the bags. And we told all of our people that were contributing, bring 1,500 because that's what we're planning. When we set up the table, the chairs for everyone to listen to the speakers, 1,500. And anyways, it was the day of the conference and only 400 came. I was devastated. I was, I just felt like we had failed
Yeah.
everyone. But at that moment, it was like I got this feeling that said, don't mourn the 1,100 that didn't come, but celebrate the 400 that did. And that change of perspective of me then started to see the conference in a lot different way.
Yeah.
And the vendors that put in a lot of money, they came to us and they were like, we know that this wasn't exactly what you wanted, but you have to keep on going. This is such a good concept of what we want to do. And this is the only platform that we have really to share this with. And so that kind of, we started then to plan for 2020. And as we went on, we were just planning our way and we had learned a lot of stuff, but we found some new sponsors and found a new venue we're going to have it at. And we were just working really hard. Well, 6 weeks before that conference happened, we were in the office of where we were housing the conference, and we got the call that all the conferences were canceled. And so we're like, okay, let's start it in June. Let's just do it in June then. And so we scheduled it for June, thinking, okay, this is just going to be a few weeks. Like, let's get this going. We'll just get reschedule it for June. Because we had already had, by 6 weeks before your conference, you have a lot of stuff already lined up.
Yeah.
And so we tried it in June. Well, June came and it was canceled. And then we were like, okay, let's just go through the whole summer. Let's do it in August. And so August came and they ended up canceling it. And here we are trying to drag all of these vendors and sponsors. Those are the most important people. We can always find speakers and all that kind of stuff, but it's the people that have put their money into it that was hard. And so in August, I was like, okay, we're going to do a virtual summit. I've never done one before, but I'm like, I'm going to figure this out, and we ended up doing a virtual summer. And plus, we told all of our vendors, we said, okay, we have had a lot of losses with this, but if you want to get back your money, we'll refund you all of it, but 10%, because we are already going to be in the hole, so there are some people we had to refund. And in the process, some of these companies, they're going out of business. One of our big sponsors, they ended up having to shut their doors too, because it was just such a hard transition and everything was going through. And so my husband just basically said, okay, we're not going to do it till the following year, because like the following April, because that should give us a big enough time. And anyways, April comes and the place that we are having at, they use it as a COVID center and they shut us down again.
Wow.
And by this time, it's like you have put your heart and soul into everything. And at that time, my husband was like, we are not going to do this until a whole other year because we cannot keep on canceling conferences. We have strung these people along, and but if we just say, okay, we are going to do it next year. If you want to be refunded, you can be refunded. We'll just take the, 10%. Um, and we went to some of our sponsors. We need some more money. If you can give us more money, that would be great because, everybody believed in what we were doing. But everything leading up to this has been emotionally, physically, um, and financially draining.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, it was the day. So the year later, conferences just started to open up. It was probably about the beginning of the year. The conferences started opening. Our conference was in April. And we didn't know if we were going to be able to do it. And my husband just was like, I am done. By the first of the year, he's like, let's just shut it down. Like, let's just shut it down. We have put so much time and effort into this. He's a chiropractor. He's like, my practice is struggling because I'm focusing on all of this external things. Why don't we just shut it down? I'll just focus on my practice. But that dream that I had kept coming to me.
Yeah.
And that last conference, there was only 400 people that came. It wasn't thousands of people, right? It kept on coming to me. And I finally just said, we need to do this conference. Like, we need to. I just have this feeling we need to do this conference. So it was the day of the conference. By this time, we had been canceled for 2 years. And and we had volunteers there that were checking people in, and there was some things that were going on the stage, and so that we needed to fix because the speakers were going to be starting in an hour. So me and my husband, we went to go to take care of that. When you're like, it's just me and my husband doing a lot of stuff, right? Because we're small, we're just starting this. It's not like we have a big crew of people. So we go take care of the stuff on the stage. And afterwards, my husband comes running back into the room. He's like, you have to come and see this. Like, you have to come and see this. Well, we walked out and it was like every hall was full. And that conference, we jumped up to 2,200 people coming to that conference,
Wow.
which was amazing. But the things that we learn is that perseverance, resilience, and leading with a purpose, right? Because there's so many times that we could have quit
Yeah.
that conference. So many times, you know what? And it would have been legitimate reasons to be able to do it. But when you have this dream of what you want to create, sometimes that's all you have to keep on going.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing story. So, how do you boil down what you do on a daily basis for a 13-year-old at career day to understand you're at career day and they want to know what you do for a living? How do you explain what you do for a living?
Well, I say that I create a platform, like I create a platform so that people can come and learn. Because within our business, I believe knowledge, empower, and elevate are the most important. Those are the three principles we have. Because the more knowledge you have, the more you will be empowered to make the choices that you need. And because of that, your life is elevated. And when you are a 13-year-old, you have the choice of what you want to be able to put your time and energy into. I have 6 kids, and my kids range from 14 up to 29. And so I've had a lot of kids that have been in that 13 age. And, video games and social media and things like that are taking the kids away from actually trying to learn. And my oldest son, that is 30, that's 29, when he was younger, he didn't like the cartoons. He didn't like the video games. He was more into Discovery Channel and just learning. This is kind of before when internet was getting bigger, but not that big yet. And at that moment, our minds are so impressionable to be able to learn new things. And if we take on that path of learning new things, then it's what? We're creating that knowledge, right? We're getting that knowledge that we have so that later on we can make the choices that we want. Because if we don't acquire that knowledge, then our choices are not going to be as wide as that we want them to be. And because my oldest son chose to go that route, he now has been able to study abroad in Africa, learn Swahili. He's been on almost the six of the seven continents. He's learned Japanese, like I said, like he learned, Swahili. He also learned Japanese. And so our minds are thirsting for knowledge. But are we going to really do that? Because when we do that, then the options in our lives open. And now he's working in DC and he's going to be working for one of the company, the government things that have the three letters, right? And so um, and because of that, his life is elevated. So I want you to think about within your life. If you are 13 years old, what is it that's in your life right now that you can do to acquire that knowledge? Because that is the foundation of what's going to set you up for the rest of your life.
So let me ask you this. Who's been your guiding light, your hero in your life that's allowed you to find this place, to inspire others, to have a better way of living their lives?
Because I had an experience myself where I was not doing well health wise. And I had lived a holistic life for a really long time. And I'd had all of these kids. Like I said, I had six kids. And I was trying to get into, the natural health realm of how to be able to take care of all of these kids in a natural way. But in the process, I started to get sick. And through that process, I learned so much more about my body and how to take care of it and what it needs and things that were not even in the mainstream. But through that process, my body was able to be restored. And so I believe that, every time anything that happens to us that's good, I look at as a miracle in our life. And so at that moment, I had a miracle in my life because my body was able to be restored. So when I was thinking about how to put on this conference and why we needed to do this, it came to the thought of think about the possibility that everyone else out there that is suffering with these health situations and their moms that are having kids that are struggling with, being a mom and then also their kids, they're, like they're getting all of these health elements. What if we just created a place that people could come and learn? And
Yeah,
so that is where I was like, that's where the passion came from. Because sometimes it's some of these hardest things that we go through in our lives. When we're young, we don't understand like the different aspects that's going to come to us in our lives later on. And when we're in the thick of it, we're like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. But what I have found are those the hardest things that we have done end up being one of the greatest blessings later on for ourselves and for other people.
for sure. So talk to me about what gets you up every day to continue this mission, to do it not only for yourself and your family, but for everybody else, because I'm sure it's hard work. There's a lot, and you got a lot of things going on. But what is that ultimate motivation to take care of you and your life and the clients that you service?
I have to go back to that dream
Yeah,
because we have to have that dream. And, you know, it's the dream that we create in our life that we see ourselves. And, it's the before the dream can actually happen, we have to actually see ourselves ahead of time. We have to see that what we want to do, how we're going to get there. And you know what? It's not going to look like that as we're going. But we have to go back to what was that dream and start building upon that dream, because that is what's going to get you through everything, and that's what's going to get you through the passions in your life that you want to be able to create and become and do anything in your life. You have to go back to what is it that you actually want. And I felt like that's what I did when I had, that dream, is that this is what I want, is, and I want to be able to create this platform. But how do you do that? That's a different step, because as you're doing it, there's different things that come in your way that might change a little bit. You may not think that that's how it fits in, but later on, you look back and you see that every step that you went through was to help you build upon the next step.
So speaking of dreams, if you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you walked into the room and there was a film projector and you hit play and it was a 60-second highlight reel of this life that you've orchestrated and lived so far, would that young version of you believe that your life turned out this way?
Not at all. Because, I remember when I had my first, the 5-year class reunion at after we graduated from high school, right? So it's like this is 5 years later, and that was one of the questions that was asked, like, do you really feel that when you graduated from high school that you would be where you at right now? And it's completely different. We have this we have this dream of, this is how my life's going to be. And we all have these struggles that we went through growing up, and really, that 18-year-old, it's like, what am I going to do in my life? Who am I going to marry? Like, am I going to have kids? And what kind of a job, career am I going to have? At that moment, I thought that I was going to become a physical therapist, because I had by that time 3 knee operations in high school. And so I thought, of course, I've lived my life in a physical therapy place. That's what I want to do. That's what kind of helped me get through a lot of my high school years. Little did I know that, well, I got married when I was 19. I ended up started having, we moved to California so my husband could attend chiropractic school. I started having children. And then all of a sudden, I having multiple children, and at that moment, I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have time to do all of these things that I thought that I was supposed to do. But what I didn't realize is each of those steps along the way, my husband going to chiropractic school, trying to figure out how we're going to finagle, our money aspect, and working 3 jobs while we lived in California just so we could survive, and then um, having all of my children and having all of these, how to raise them and having these health elements. And then my experience that I went through of not having my health where I wanted it to be, and then learning all of this stuff. When it came to it, I look back every single of those moments, even though I wanted to be a physical therapist when I was 18, I feel like what I'm doing now is serving so many more people. But it took me every one of those steps to go through of learning so that I believe, now I'm gathering thousands of people a year to be able to come and be educated so that they can get that knowledge and have a better life.
So at the end of the day, Liz, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I believe that I am a um, strong woman with a lot of perseverance that has a great mission to be able to do. All of us have great missions to do, but I truly feel that this is my mission, and that sometimes people might say, "Liz, you work too hard." But it's if you're working towards something that you feel is your mission, then you can get through anything. And so I feel like I'm a very strong, determined woman, and I live by the saying that says, "Live today to bless others tomorrow." And that's what I do, is I live today so that I can bless others tomorrow.
So if you look in that proverbial rear view mirror of your life, of everything that you've done, accomplished, overcome, and evolved to, what are you ultimately the happiest about, the proudest of?
That I didn't quit.
Yeah,
That I did not quit because there is great things ahead. And that's what I have tried to teach my children to. Each one of my six children, I have taught them the importance of work and working towards something. And now I have very successful children. Even my child that's 14, what was he doing yesterday? He was walking the neighborhood, getting people signed up so he can do aerating this next week.
yeah.
And then I also offer lawn service. And so, what is it? They see that their parents are continually learning and growing and improving the community. And each one of my kids have been able to create businesses, be able to look to see how they can better their lives. And because of that, they are all extremely successful.
So if anybody wants to get your book, Becoming Me, they want to book a call, they want to see you in all these varying capacities of your life, where's the best place for them to go to do that?
They can go to elizabethannwatt.com is my website, and there is a free download there that you can get that helps people get out the clutter in their life so that they can actually build the dreams that they want to. If they want to learn more about natural health, they can go to Be Healthy Utah. There is a free download of a book there that I wrote, and they can become healthy versions, a better version of themselves so that they can create the dreams that they want.
I love it. I will put all these links in the show notes. Liz, thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet.